Fellas, let me ask you something real simple. What do you say to a woman who gave you everything and all you ever gave her was another reason to cry? She gave you the world, but you gave her excuses. She waited for your love and you gave her silence. She built a home in her heart just for you and you tore it down with neglect. Let's be real. You didn't lose her because she was too emotional. You lost her because you thought her love would never run out. And now that it's gone, you finally see her value. But sometimes realization comes a little too late. You took her consistency for granted. That's where it started. Not with some huge betrayal, not with a loud explosion, but with your silence in the face of her devotion. Every single day, she was there, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. She showed up when you didn't even ask. She checked in when you didn't even respond. She loved you without needing to be reminded why. And yet, instead of honoring that consistency, you got used to it, like the sun that rises every morning. You thought it would just always be there. But even the sun sets when it's not appreciated. She would message you, "Did you eat?" Not because she was being annoying, but because love for her was expressed in care. She would send you good morning texts, voice notes, memes, just to make you smile. She remembered the little things. Your favorite snack, your mom's birthday, that day you had a tough meeting. And she didn't just remember, she acted on it. She made you feel seen. But what did you do? You replied late. Or worse, you didn't reply at all. You convinced yourself she would always be there, because she always had been. You mistook her patience for permanence. You thought, she knows I'm not good at this stuff, and so you didn't even try. You told yourself you'd show up later, when life slowed down, when work wasn't so stressful, when you felt more ready. But love doesn't wait for convenience. It thrives in commitment. While you were busy getting ready, she was slowly unwrapping the painful truth that she was pouring into someone who had stopped pouring back. She stayed consistent through your mood swings. When you shut down, she opened up. When you pulled back, she leaned in. When you went cold, she wrapped her warmth around the both of you. But every time she stayed, you pushed a little more, thinking she could handle it. How do you end a friendship? You pushed a little more, thinking she could handle it, and that was your mistake. Because she wasn't built to be your emotional punching bag. She was built to be your partner, not your therapist. Think of it like this. You walk into a house every day, lights on, warmth in the air, dinner on the table. You assume it will always be that way. But one day you walk in and it's cold, dark, quiet. You call her name and no one answers. That's what happens when a woman gets tired of being the only one present. So you think of her as your main co-host. You call her name and no one answers. That's what happens when a woman gets tired of being the only one present. Her absence becomes the loudest message she ever sent. And suddenly the things you ignored become the things you crave. Her consistency was never weakness. It was strength. It was grace. It was her loving you in ways you didn't even realize you needed. But consistency without reciprocation turns into exhaustion. It turns a woman who used to fight for you into one who learns to fight for herself. And once she starts fighting for her peace, your name no longer makes it into her prayers. You thought love was about grand gestures, expensive dates, birthday gifts. But she was showing you what real love looked like. Consistency in the ordinary, staying loyal in silence, choosing you daily, even when you made it hard. She was your safe place, but you mistook her peace for passivity. You thought she'd never leave. But here's the truth. When a woman realizes her consistency is being fed to a man who's inconsistent with his own efforts, she doesn't make noise. She makes a decision. You took her consistency for granted. She wasn't loud about her love, but it was there in every detail, every habit, every silent act of care. She didn't need to be dramatic to prove she loved you. She just showed up. Every single day. When you woke up, she had already checked on your mood. When you were late, she waited without complaining. When you failed, she clapped louder for your next try. But you got comfortable with her presence. You started expecting the messages without replying. You heard the I miss you without feeling the need to say it back. You thought her love was automatic, like breathing. But you forgot, even breath can be taken away. She didn't just call to nag you, she called because she cared. She didn't ask how your day was just to fill a silence. She asked because your joy mattered to her. And every time she said, I'll be here, she meant it. Not because you were perfect, but because her love was real. But somewhere along the line, you stopped hearing her. You stopped seeing her. You started treating her like an option. Someone who would always be there, no matter how little you gave. But love is not a one-way street. It was never meant to be a sacrifice of one soul and the comfort of another. Think about it. If someone brings you water every day, you start to expect it. You stop saying thank you. You assume it's their job. But the day they don't come, the thirst hits hard. That's how her consistency worked. She was your emotional water. Your reminder that someone had your back no matter what. She was your emotional water. Your reminder that someone had your back no matter what. She became the background music in your life, always playing, always soothing. Until one day it stopped and you finally noticed the silence. And when that silence hit, you realized something. Consistency isn't boring. It's powerful. It's rare. In a world full of people who give up at the first inconvenience, she kept showing up. She loved you on the days you weren't lovable. She forgave when you didn't even apologize. She kept showing up. She loved you on the days you weren't lovable. She forgave when you didn't even apologize. She cheered for you when you forgot to clap for yourself. She didn't just say, I love you. She lived it. She embodied it. She was love. But you misread her strength. You thought her patience was infinite. You thought her loyalty meant she'd never leave. But even the strongest hearts get tired of pumping love into a relationship that's half dead. She didn't want perfection. She wanted effort. She didn't ask for the moon, just consistency. Not flowers on one day, but attention every day. Not long paragraphs once a year, but presence in the small moments. Imagine this. She's sitting on the couch after a long day, waiting for a text that never comes. You're out with friends, thinking she's fine because she's low maintenance, but inside, she's slowly breaking. Not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't do. You didn't show up. So what you didn't do, you didn't show up. You didn't say thank you. You didn't hold her when she needed to cry. And you didn't realize how much she was doing just to keep the connection alive. That kind of love isn't easy to find. And it's even harder to get back once it walks away. She didn't leave because she stopped loving you. She left because she started loving herself more. She finally realized that giving and giving without receiving drains your soul. And you were still thinking she would wait forever. But you forgot. Even angels grow wings. Even queens stop building empires for boys who refuse to grow into kings. You thought her loyalty meant she'd never leave. You looked at the way she stood by your side, even when things were falling apart, and you assumed that meant she'd always be there. No matter how many times you fell short, no matter how cold you became, no matter how absent you were emotionally, you believed she'd stay. Because that's what she always did. She loved you through storms. She defended you when others questioned her sanity. She protected your image when you weren't even protecting her heart. And in your mind, her loyalty became a guarantee. But loyalty is not slavery. Love is not imprisonment. And every woman, no matter how deeply she loves, has a breaking point. She didn't stay because she had nowhere to go. She stayed because she chose you. She stayed because she saw something in you. A man worth fighting for. A heart worth healing. Your heart works all the time. Your mind works all the time. Your heart works all the time. A future worth building. But with every silent night, every unanswered message, every broken promise, you were teaching her that the man she fell in love with only existed in her imagination. And even the strongest woman eventually stops fighting for someone who won't even show up to the battle. She wasn't loyal because she was weak. She was loyal because she understood what commitment means. In a world full of temporary love and instant gratification, she was rare. Someone who believed in growing together, not giving up. But instead of cherishing that loyalty, you weaponized it. You told yourself, she's not going anywhere. And that became your excuse to stop trying. You treated her heart like a punching bag for your moods, your past, your ego. You told yourself she was too emotional, when all she really wanted was to feel heard. Let's be honest. You saw her breaking, and still you stayed silent. You saw the shift in her eyes, the change in her energy, and yet you kept playing the same tired games. And why? Because deep down, you thought you had time. You thought you could take her for granted, hurt her, ignore her, and still have her waiting when you came back around. But love doesn't work that way. Loyalty doesn't mean blindness. Only an appropriate time. Love played a huge role. It doesn't mean a woman should lose herself just to keep you comfortable. Picture a tree that gives shade every day. You sit beneath it, rest beneath it, lean on it when you're tired. But you never water it. Never care for its roots. Never check if it's okay. And then one day it falls. And you're shocked. But how can you be surprised when you gave nothing back? That's how she felt. She was giving and giving, rooted in you, and you never once asked, "Are you okay?" And that's how she felt. She was giving and giving, rooted in you, and you never once asked, "Are you okay?" You saw her loyalty as a license. You used her love like it was unbreakable. But even the purest loyalty has an expiration date when it's met with constant disrespect. She stayed through the pain, but eventually she realized loyalty to you was becoming betrayal to herself. And that's when everything changed. When she stopped asking for time, when she started choosing peace over potential. You thought her loyalty was endless. But loyalty isn't about how much pain someone can take. It's about how much they're willing to give before they start bleeding alone. And when she finally stood up and said, "Enough," you realized too late, she wasn't yours because you had her. She was yours because she believed in you. And when that belief died, so did the version of her that kept saving you from yourself. You confused her forgiveness with weakness. You confused her with weakness with weakness. You thought because she kept taking you back, she'd never walk away. You thought because she wiped her own tears and still managed to love you, she had no limits. You saw her grace as something soft and fragile. But in reality, it was the most powerful thing you ever experienced, and you broke it like it meant nothing. Every time she forgave you, it wasn't because she was naive. It was because she believed in love more than she believed in revenge. She believed in you more than she believed in giving up. But you never saw that. You mistook her strength for softness, her mercy for weakness, her compassion for codependency. She forgave you when you disappeared. She forgave the forgotten dates, the missed calls, the cold responses. She forgave the times you made her feel like she was asking for too much, when all she wanted was consistency. She forgave the silent treatment. She forgave the silent treatment, the broken promises, the patterns you never changed. She forgave things that broke her spirit because she thought you would eventually change, because she believed your love would eventually show up the way hers did, but you never did. And still, she stayed. She wasn't a fool. She was a woman in love. A woman with a heart so big, it tried to carry not only her emotions, but yours too. When you shut down, she opened up. When you lied, she tried to understand. When you hurt her, she convinced herself it was temporary. Not because she didn't see the damage, but because she saw who you could be beyond the damage. But here's the painful truth you ignored. Forgiveness without change becomes a cycle of emotional destruction. She was healing you while bleeding, loving you while being unloved. And all you could see was that she kept staying. That was your comfort. That was your illusion. You made the mistake so many men make. You thought that because she didn't explode, she wasn't breaking. You thought that because she smiled, she was okay. You thought that because she came back after every disappointment, she was always going to. But love doesn't mean staying silent forever. Forgiveness is not the same thing as endurance. She wasn't letting you off the hook. She was giving you another chance to step up. And each time you didn't, you were training her heart to stop hoping. Imagine this. A child keeps dropping a glass, and every time the mother picks it up, cleans it, forgives the accident. But if that child never learns to hold the glass with care, eventually the glass shatters beyond repair. That's what happened with her. She was picking up the pieces of your carelessness, again and again, until one day, she looked at the glass in her hands and realized it wasn't her job to fix what you refused to hold properly. Forgiveness is a gift, not a guarantee. It's not something you're entitled to. And the more you treated it like a safety net, the more she started cutting the rope. You kept thinking, she always forgives me, without realizing she was dying inside every time she had to. Because every apology you gave without change was like telling her, you don't matter enough for me to grow. And the craziest part, you didn't even see her strength while you had it. Another man will. He will see the way she forgives and call it divine. He will see the way she stays calm in chaos and call it wisdom. He will cherish the very things you called too much. Because what you saw as weakness, someone else will recognize as a woman who chose love even when it hurt, and who eventually chose herself when love stopped being returned. Now you want her back, but she found her worth. The silence that once scared you has now become permanent. And not because she doesn't feel anything, but because she finally feels everything she should have always felt for herself. See, back then, she would have dropped everything for a message from you. A "Hey, I miss you" would have pulled her right back into your orbit. She was that loyal, that emotionally invested, that genuine. But not anymore. Because the version of her you broke birthed a version of her you'll never recognize again. You see her glowing now, don't you? You hear about her doing better. She's laughing louder, walking lighter, smiling like she finally exhaled. And you're wondering how she moved on without closure, how she just stopped reaching out, how she went from asking you if you ate to not even caring if you exist. But that's what happens when a woman realizes her love was never the problem. It was where she placed it that was. She gave you chance after chance to become the man she believed you could be. She saw greatness in you, even when you were buried in your excuses. She watered you when she was thirsty. She prayed for you when she couldn't sleep. She loved you when she couldn't love yourself. But you didn't notice, did you? Now wait a minute. You saw a little girl. You understood a need. Didn't you want to know how you felt? But you didn't notice, did you? When she left your house, she baked you your papis, your gobes, your papi pa, your papi. You thought she was just there. You thought she would always be there. You thought her staying power meant you had forever. But forever doesn't live where effort dies. You want her back now because her silence is louder than her love ever was. Now that you can't feel her presence in your life, you're haunted by the echo of her absence. Now you remember the little things. The way she used to wait up for you, the way she'd make sure your favorite meal was on the table, the way she'd send you encouraging texts before your meetings, the way she saw the light in you when the world only saw flaws. But now she gives that energy to herself. You waited too long to value her. And in that time, she went from begging for breadcrumbs to feasting at her own table. She built herself up. She cried through the nights, journaled through the silence, healed through the pain, and most importantly, she remembered who she was before you made her forget. She stopped asking why she wasn't enough for you and started realizing why you were never enough for her. That's the thing about real love. It doesn't beg. It transforms. And she transformed into the woman you said you were never ready for. Into the woman you thought you could replace but never really did. Into the woman that now makes you feel like a fool for letting go. You want her back now, but not because you're ready to give her what she always deserved. You want her back because you see someone else might. You want her back because the fantasy you chased didn't love you like she did. Because the temporary attention you chased in her absence didn't give you peace. It gave you noise. And now, in the quiet of your regret, you realize the only woman who really saw you finally sees herself. She no longer needs closure. She became her own closure. She no longer checks your status. She's too busy building a life that doesn't include waiting for someone to grow up. The same woman who used to beg for your time now walks like a woman who owns every minute of her day. That's what healing looks like. That's what growth sounds like. That's what self-worth becomes when love stops being one-sided. She gave you the world, not because you earned it, but because she believed you were worthy of it. And now, as you stand in the ruins of what could have been, you're left with the echo of her absence, the silence of her blocked number, and the image of a woman who loved you so deeply that she forgot how to love herself. Until she remembered how to love herself. Until she remembered. And when she remembered, she rose. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to scream. She didn't even need to explain. Her growth became the loudest goodbye. Her peace became the only answer. Her distance became her healing. The truth is, you never lost her when she walked away. You lost her the moment you stopped showing up. You lost her the moment you stopped showing up your efforts. You lost her the moment you chose comfort over change. And now that you finally see her, radiant, powerful, unapologetically herself, you realize what you truly lost wasn't just a woman. You lost your mirror, your muse, your miracle. People think the greatest heartbreak is when someone leaves. No, the greatest heartbreak is when they stayed. Through your storms, carried your baggage, loved you past your lies, and then left with nothing but lessons. Lessons that you now replay in your head at night. Lessons that you now want to rewrite. But sometimes the story doesn't get a second draft. Sometimes the chapter closes with no sequel. Because let's get this straight. The woman you ignored became the woman someone else will adore. The love you labeled too much will be the exact love another man will thank God for every night. The heart you kept breaking will now be guarded by peace so strong, even your apology can't break through. You thought you were teaching her to be patient, but all you taught her was how to live without you. Don't wait to value her when she's already become someone else's answered prayer. Don't wait to realize her worth when she's already discovered it for herself. Because when a woman wakes up to her own value, the man who made her feel small becomes nothing more than a memory. And when she finds herself, she no longer needs to be found. So this is not just her story, this is your warning. The softest hearts become the coldest when they've been ignored long enough. The kindest souls become the most distant when they've been taken for granted too often. And the most loyal woman becomes the most unforgettable when she finally walks away. And now, you want her back. But the truth is, she's no longer standing at the door. She's building one you'll never enter. She's dancing in peace you never gave her. She's glowing in light you tried to dim. And she's loving herself in a way you never did. That's what happens when a woman remembers who she is. Let the world hear this. Never confuse her patience for permission. Never mistake her silence as weakness. And never think that just because she's soft, she can't be solid. Because when a woman decides to stop chasing someone who isn't growing, she doesn't just leave, she evolves. And evolution doesn't come back to apologize. In the words of famous wisdom, you never know what you have until it's gone. And by then, it's too late. Don't make a queen out of pain if you were the reason for her suffering. A real woman will ride with you through hell, but she will not stay in it with you forever. You can't keep breaking a heart that was only trying to fix you. When she finally chooses peace, she'll walk away without anger, but with power. So remember this. You didn't just lose a good woman. You lost the only woman who would have rebuilt the world with you, even after you burned it down. You were focused on her flaws, not her efforts. You zoomed in on her rough days and completely missed the war she was fighting, just to love you the best way she knew how. You were quick to point out that she overthinks, that she gets emotional, that sometimes she's too much. But you never took a moment to ask yourself why. You never paused to consider that maybe her overthinking was really her way of caring too much. Maybe her mood swings were born from exhaustion. Exhaustion of trying to love a man who only sees the cracks, never the architecture. You saw her tears as weakness, but you didn't see the strength it took to still speak kindly when her heart was breaking. You criticized her tone, but never appreciated the fact that even in her frustration, she stayed. She stayed when she could have walked. She loved when she could have given up. She cooked your meals, supported your dreams, held space for your pain, made you a priority. And still, your mind was set on what she wasn't doing right. You judged her for snapping at you after a long day. But did you ever ask yourself what she went through before she came home to you? You complained about her asking questions, but that was her trying to understand you deeper, to connect, to fix what felt off. You rolled your eyes at her sensitivity, but that same sensitivity is what made her feel your silence louder than your words. It's what made her wake up early just to pray for you. It's what made her notice the things about you that you had forgotten about yourself. Real love isn't flawless. It's raw. It's messy. But it's also intentional. And she was intentional about you. She didn't love you perfectly, but she loved you honestly. She wasn't some fairy tale woman. She was real, with triggers, scars, fears, but also with loyalty, vision, and fire in her spirit. She didn't give you a fantasy. She gave you her truth. And instead of embracing that truth, you dissected it under a microscope and complained that it wasn't clean enough for your standards. Let me break it down for you with something simple. Imagine someone hands you a diamond, uncut, unpolished, straight from the earth. So you couldn't tell if it was big enough for a hand. You gave it to me as big as you could possibly get. You couldn't tell me what the diamond was made of. You couldn't tell me what the diamond was made of. Uncut, unpolished, straight from the earth. It's rough. It has edges. It doesn't shine like the ones you see in display windows. So you throw it away, thinking it's worthless. Only to find out later that same diamond, once refined, is priceless. That's what she was. A rare gem. Real, raw, powerful. But you were too busy chasing glitter to realize what true value looked like. She didn't want to be perfect. She just wanted to be appreciated. She didn't expect you to fix her, just to love her where she was while she grew. But you used her imperfections as excuses, as ways to dodge accountability, as shields to hide your own flaws behind. You magnified her mistakes to distract from your lack of effort. But here's what's wild. The very things you used to criticize, another man will one day celebrate. Where you saw too emotional, he'll see deep empathy. Where you saw clingy, he'll see deep loyalty. Where you saw flaws, he'll see sacrifice. You missed the mark because your vision was small. You were so focused on what she wasn't, you failed to see all that she was becoming for you. She tried. That woman tried in ways you'll never understand until someone makes you feel invisible while you're giving your all. And the day you feel that, you remember her. The one who fought to love you through every flaw, even while you judged hers. Excuses became your love language. And you didn't even notice how every "I've been busy," every "you know how I am," every "that's just how I deal with things," slowly chipped away at her belief in your promises. You kept saying you'd do better, but you never did. You kept saying, just give me some time, but you never made any real effort in that time. So let's keep saying you'd do better, but you never made any real effort in that time. You thought she'd be satisfied with words that sounded deep but lacked direction. And over time, she stopped believing in your potential because all she ever saw was delay, defense, and denial. She never asked you to be perfect. She just wanted effort. But you became an artist of deflection, painting pretty pictures of change without ever picking up the tools to actually create it. You gave speeches about your intentions instead of showing up with action. And she listened. She waited. She hoped. But hoping alone can't build a future when the other person is addicted to convenience and hiding behind almost. Let's talk real. Love doesn't grow in promises. It grows in presence. She didn't want your fancy words, she wanted your attention. When she broke down after a rough day, she didn't need you to quote deep Instagram captions. She needed you to hold her hand when her world was crumbling. But instead of standing up, you backed down. Instead of stepping in, you stepped away. And when she called you out, what did you do? You made another excuse. You told her she was asking for too much. You blamed your past, your ex, your trauma, your job, your mood, anything but yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of, I'll do it later. But love doesn't survive on later. It survives on now. On the simple, I got you. On the I'm here, even when it's hard. And she waited for that. She waited through your missed calls, your delayed replies, your unread messages. She waited for the day your words would finally meet your actions. But you got comfortable hiding behind your reasons. You mistook her patience for peace. You thought just because she wasn't yelling, she was okay. But silence isn't always forgiveness. Sometimes it's fatigue. Think about this. Imagine you're walking in the rain with someone you love. She's soaking, freezing, and she looks at you, expecting you to open your umbrella. You keep telling her, I brought it, don't worry. But you never actually open it. You just keep talking about how you could help her. After a while, her hair's drenched, her hands are cold, her heart is numb, and she's done. Because your umbrella was just like your love, full of intention, but closed when it mattered most. You thought you were buying time, you were wasting hers, you thought she'd always understand. But understanding without change turns into quiet resentment. She started second-guessing her worth, wondering if she was asking for too much, when all she wanted was consistency. And you were so used to giving excuses that you forgot how to give effort. Excuses are comfort zones. They keep us from facing who we really are. But here's the truth. The man who constantly explains why he can't show up is not ready for the woman who always does. She didn't need you to be a hero. She just needed you to stop hiding. She was willing to meet you halfway, but every time she reached out, she found empty air. Because while she was offering presence, all you offered was potential. While she was giving time, you were giving reasons. While she loved with action, you loved with delay. And at some point, even the strongest heart gets tired of waiting for someone to become what they keep promising to be.